Hello everybody! So this is just a little introduction that I wanted to do really quick for the start of this vlog. And this vlog is that I am critically reading Midnight Sun for the first time. I talked about it a little bit, how I was going to do a critical reading vlog for this book as well as critically rereading the rest of the books in the Twilight series. So before we get into talking about Midnight Sun, I wanted to really quick talk about Twilight because I did reread that book. I want to say it was in May or June. As somebody who's reading this book 10 years after originally reading it, that was when I began to notice all the issues that I had with it, that I now had with it, and that other people were recognizing and that I was just seeing with my own eyes. I talk about it more in my wrap-up for that month. I remember I ended up not rating Twilight this time around just because I was seeing these issues. There are a lot of racism issues in this book, as well as the fact that it's just not good literature. I can't point out specific examples at the moment because I don't have them on the top of my head, but I will find some articles and leave them in the description below if you're interested in what I'm talking about. It is specifically against Native Americans and Indigenous people. So now that I'm reading Midnight Sun, I'm looking more at Edward's behavior, because in the first book, his behavior, even though it's not from his perspective, his behavior is borderline stalker-ish, especially with the watching her sleep thing. I'm almost 100 pages into this book. I have been taking some notes, and I'm actually color coding my notes where things I have issues with are in red, things that I'm unsure on are in yellow, and then things I like are in green. So first I'm going to talk about things that I'm having issues with. Now I'm only not even 100 pages in yet, so it's roughly chapter 5. This is a very long book, and that's one of the things is, why are these chapters so damn long? I don't know, but that's a thing that's bothering me, and it has nothing to do with the literature. Reading chapter 1 alone made me realize that Edward thinks of himself as two people, which is Edward himself, but also the monster. It's weird to have him referring to himself as two different people, but sure. And then after the car accident, Edward kind of has this sense of he's thinking about finding Bella. She's not at the hospital, but she's not at school anymore. So he's thinking about finding her, which is, again, stalkery. But he also says that he's acting like a stalker. So I'm like, it's whether he's going to act on that instinct or not. One thing is actually not about Edward, but it's actually about Rosalie, where Rosalie just straight up just wants to kill Bella right away, just to stop any rumors from spreading. Her story makes sense because of what we know from her in Eclipse, but she's basically just volunteering to assassinate Bella, and I'm like, what the fuck? One thing that I was really unsure of is there's scenes when Bella and Edward are first meeting that almost make Bella out to be angry, and I'm just, while she's talking to him, and maybe that's how he's trying to see her. Are my thoughts there? Maybe it's because he doesn't want to like her that he's trying to make her out to be angry at these certain things. I don't know. That's the only thing I'm unsure on right now. And then the things I'm actually enjoying are being in Edward's perspective is allowing us to see more of an in-depth look at the Cullens, which I'm really liking. It shows almost like a human side to them, especially when Edward thinks about how he horses around with his brothers and how he loves them as brothers. A good example is in chapter 4, where there is a family meeting, and it really shows how the Cullens are when they're in their own home away from other people. That's all I have so far, and we're just going to be talking as I'm reading, basically. You know, I filmed 2 videos, I was dressed really nice, and then as soon as I was done filming, I was into my pajamas before I realized I had to update you guys. So I've only talked to you guys once since I started Midnight Sun, and guys, I have 100 pages left. In reality, it has been a week and a half since I started this book, but I've only updated you guys one other time, so we're gonna talk Midnight Sun real quick. If there's anything that I've learned while filming this video, it is that I can definitely have a more critical eye while reading, as I have while reading Midnight Sun. I'm just really bad at updating you guys about it. So that's where we're at. But I have continued to take notes the whole time I have been reading, which is good. And there is one thing that I did want to talk about that I didn't talk about in my previous clip. I would be lying if I said that there isn't nostalgia while reading this book. I read the original series at a very peak Twilight time in society, and I used to be a huge fan of this series. So I'd be lying if I said there's no nostalgia. There is nostalgia while reading this book, but that hasn't stopped me from understanding and knowing the issues with Stephenie Meyer and this book. It's a very similar thing with Harry Potter as well. There is a nostalgic aspect, which I think a lot of people feel, but the artist behind the content is a garbage human. And that's how it is with Twilight. We have a garbage human who created something that was nostalgic from my childhood and is coming back. I also wanted to say that I have started to read the Snark Squad discussions for this book. I haven't gotten all the way through them yet, but I didn't start reading them until after I was a decent way through the book already. Within the first 2 pages, they're already pointing out things that I didn't notice, but again, I'm also not a critical reader all the time. This is like probably the first time I've ever tried to do it. So while I am trying to read this with a critical eye, it is new to me. I'm going to link the first chapter of the Snark Squad reading Midnight Sun in the description below because they have more of a better eye on some things that I may have missed. So I'm continuing on with my color coding system while I was taking notes. And I just want to jump into something that has been bothering me as I've been reading this book. When Edward saves Bella in Port Angeles and takes her to dinner, he makes a reference of Hades and Persephone, where when she's eating, it's as if she's eating the pomegranate seeds, and he's then trapping her into this life. I didn't like that original reference there because it felt so on the nose, so obvious. I mean, get real, there's a fucking pomegranate on the front of this book. Since that original mention, way back like maybe a quarter of the way through this book, there have been so many more. So much continuously referring to the pomegranate and continuously referring to the Hades and Persephone story, and I really, really needed to stop. There was like 2 in one chapter. I remembered it was chapter 17, and it's really, really annoying. Maybe that's why they chose a pomegranate, because Stephenie Meyer can't stop referencing it in this book. She's had to have said it like 20 times at this point. It's really annoying. And that's probably the most passion you're gonna get out of me from this whole thing, because I'm really annoyed by the pomegranate thing. It's stupid, I know, to be annoyed by this, but I'm really peeved about it. Continuing on with the pomegranate thing, apparently I referenced it from page 207 in the book, which was so long ago from where I'm at now. I think this was the original referencing that the pomegranate was a vision, and honestly that sounds like a load of bullshit to me. Continuously throughout the book, Edward is always talking about how he needs to leave, he needs to be away from her. So fucking do it, man. Just do it. If you are going to continuously say you need to be away from her, just do it. I'm really tired of having 300 pages of this book of him saying, I need to leave, I'm too dangerous, I can't be with her. So leave. Is that, like, does he finally decide in New Moon, does it take him that long to finally get up the courage to leave? Like, I'm really tired of 300 pages of the same thing. Like, that's what it feels like. Again, I said I'm really tired of all these pomegranate references. There's, at this point in my notes, there's at least 10. There's probably 20 where I am now. This is kind of this might be like a plot issue for me. Edward's brain, because we're in his brain now, he tends to go off on these tangents. He may go down like memory lane, and it throws off the whole story for me. So we could be in real time doing one thing, and then his brain starts thinking of a memory, and we follow that memory, and then when we get back to real time, I've totally forgotten what's been going on. I'm going through all the bad things first, before I go on to the things I like. The last thing I wrote was on Friday. It's Sunday now. The last thing I wrote was on Friday, and it's Edward has anger issues. He should see someone about that. And I can't remember if I talked about this in the last clip, but Edward says he's not a peeping Tom, but Mike would be a peeping Tom. And instead he's saying that instead of being a peeping Tom, he's protecting her, and that just sounds like a crock of shit to me. You're stalking, you're peeping, and it's creepy because she doesn't know about it. Like, she doesn't even know you're a vampire yet. It's fucking creepy. I do think it is interesting, now that we're being in Edward's head, to see him falling in love. It is very human. Obviously, he's not a human, but it's very human to see him falling in love, which I think is great. I feel like we don't get as much of Bella falling in love in Twilight. More, it's like she's dazzled by Edward, and the next page she's like, I love him. I'll give Midnight Sun this. We're seeing Edward surrounded by others in his family that are in love, and he's wondering when he's finally going to find that companionship. So it is very human and very interesting and nice to see him falling in love, even though he wants to eat her. Not in a good way. In a flashback, it showed Carlisle surprising Edward for Christmas, which I thought was really nice. Again, very human. And it definitely showed a father-son relationship, which I really, really liked. Alternatively, part of Carlisle's method in helping them adjust to their new life is when they accidentally kill somebody, they then have to attend the funeral of that person. I'm really not sure how to feel about that. Maybe I didn't understand it. I don't know. I have to find that again because I'm not sure how I feel about that at all. I'm sorry I'm turned sideways. I have to read my computer and talk to you guys. But one thing I am loving in this book is Edward telling the stories of how the whole family came together. We're seeing how each family member was brought to this family from his perspective. We saw Rose. We got a lot of detail with Emmett. And I think that is so interesting because I like hearing about the Cullen family more than anything else. And then kind of going back to how Edward falling in love is very human, we get a lot of his longing to be human, which I think is interesting. And to the reader, me, it makes him seem more human and not like a crazy stalker. He's still a stalker, just saying. But, well, he was. I don't know if he still is. And those are all of my notes up to the point that I'm at. I have 100 pages left. So I think what this video is going to be, now that I've ranted for 13 minutes, is this video is going to be these first 2 clips that I've filmed. And then when I talk to you next, I'm going to be done with this book. And we're going to talk about the whole thing. I don't know how long it's going to take. Alright, so here we are. So I finished Midnight Sun about 2 weeks ago now. It's now the 25th of October. And I've also read like 5 other things since finishing Midnight Sun. So the last time I talked to you guys, I only had 100 pages left in the story, and I finished it, I think, the next day when I was at work. So since I've last talked to you guys, I only have a couple of more notes. Both of them are stupid things. And then kind of just a wrap up of my thoughts. I don't think I got really into this story until about 400 pages in. This book is 658 pages. And that's when we get into more interesting stuff because Bella's being hunted, so there's a lot of stuff going on. They're separated, and we're seeing Edward's perspective. So we all know that James bites Bella, and Edward has to suck the venom out so she doesn't become a vampire. In that scene, when he realizes that the only way to save her is to suck the venom out, I shit you not, if you haven't read this, this is a direct quote. His thoughts are, but I'm a vampire. No fucking shit. I did not read 550 pages of his back and forth bullshit for him to come to that genius conclusion. No shit, you're a vampire. You really didn't need to think that really, really obvious line. Well, we all know how that worked out. Everything was fine. Whatever. One thing I thought was really interesting is because they need to come up with a backstory of why Bella nearly died for her family and for humans and everything. And we see Alice creating the scene like in a vision, which very intricate, very interesting. And as we're reaching the end of this book, the final chapters, finally, Edward is still going back and forth on whether he's gonna leave her or not. I'm sure I've said it a ton more times while reading this book, but make up your damn mind. He is way too deep into this shit now to still be thinking like this, which I'm assuming that's why he leaves her in New Moon. I don't know. There is no New Moon from his perspective, so I can't tell you anything about that right now. In conclusion of all of Midnight Sun, really, and this whole video, It's just another Twilight book. It is the same story in a new perspective, and it's the same book, that has been done now 3 times, from the original, the gender changes, and this thing. It's the same book that's been done 3 times now. Is she gonna do it a 4th time? Probably. Are people gonna read it? Yeah. Because that's just what happens. There is nostalgia with this book and this series as a whole. There were things I liked. We did talk about that. In the end, the writing is not good, and Stephenie Meyer is a garbage human. That's the giant conclusion that I've reached in all of this. Which really wasn't unknown. That was known for a while now, so that's nothing new. This is Chloe from the future, who's editing this video right now. Yesterday I read The Fangirl's Guide to the Universe by Sam Maggs, which comes out today, October 27th. But there was a line in here that mentions Twilight and 50 Shades that perfectly fits this vlog. And if you have this book, it's on page 183 at the bottom, and it's talking about how healthy that relationship is anyway. And it says there's a lot of media out there, like Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, that glorifies abusive, controlling relationships. Which I think a lot of that abusive relationshipness is more towards 50 Shades. But then there's a line that says, when we read these books and think, wow, that's so sweet that he shows up at her house uninvited at night while she's unconscious to watch her sleep, we subconsciously accept that that behavior is okay. That perfectly right there says the stalker relationship in this whole book that I've been trying to say. I'm gonna be honest, I had fun doing this video and reading this book. I was just editing all the other clips before this, and I'm surprised at how long this video is going to be, but I hope you guys enjoyed this critical slash humor reading of Midnight Sun and a small recap of rereading Twilight. I am going to be doing this for the rest of the series because I am going to be rereading them. And I'm really excited to do that and take more fun notes and see what other bullshit I can pull from this. Check out all the links I'm going to leave in the description below. I'm going to leave Beautifully Bookish Bethany's video. She did a similar critically reading Midnight Sun, and I think she did it for the other books in the series as well. I'm going to leave that in the description below. I talked about her video in my October TBR when I was discussing reading Midnight Sun, so I'll leave my October TBR in the description below as well. I'm also going to link the Snark Squad chapter 1 reading of Midnight Sun because it's hilarious. I still have not finished reading all of the Snark Squad recaps, but from what I was reading already, it is really funny. I think you guys should definitely check it out. It goes chapter by chapter. That is all I have for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you like what you see here, please go ahead and click subscribe. I post new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Consider supporting my Patreon. It is linked in the description below as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! In the darkness, I don't feel so cold.